Welcome to Open Enough to Listen, the podcast for real stories, raw perspectives, and unfiltered conversations. We push past the surface, challenge what we know, and truly listen. All right, let's get into it. Today, we have Ms. Dawn. We're going to be talking about societal perspectives. How you doing, Dawn?
I'm doing great. Happy that we were finally able to link up to have this discussion. It's been a couple weeks, the birds on my brain, things of that nature,
Yeah, life be life, and don't.
doesn't it? Doesn't stop for anybody. That's the truth.
Yes, ma'am. So, what is your interest, or what is like your focus as far as like what do you feel strongly about?
Right now, I feel kind of strongly about mental health, especially from the male perspective. I'm a female. I understand things from my perspective, from the female perspective, but I really wanted to get the point of view of like males. Let's face it, I had a very biased perspective of men um, and how things affect them, and having a son, a father, nephews, brothers, it made me want to delve into how things affect them as well, and what can I do to assist them, because life isn't, it's not nice to anyone, but really males. And I'm a black woman, so I'm really more so about black people, and how things affect us, and just just seeing how society treats black men made me think about and look at things from a different perspective outside of my own. Oh, and also I dealt with someone who, I thought may have had some mental issues, and I just didn't know how to handle that or move forward. So, also to prepare myself as well to help others.
And that's good. That's good. And when it comes to social media, it's kind of funny that you say that because I'm not gonna say it's a lot of bashing men, but I do think a lot of people don't understand, and I do think sometimes it is one sided. But I think it's interesting coming from a woman's perspective, speaking on the male behalf. I think that's very interesting.
Yeah, it has to. So I have an ideology that it starts with us. Women are very powerful. The things we hold life and death in our hands, whether we realize it or not. It's life or death with what we feed our children and our its significant other. What we teach is life and death. We literally, it we have a big responsibility. And so for me, I believe it begins there. Like, we talk about men, leadership, things of that nature, but a lot of things we actually set the tone for.
I agree with that. I agree with that wholeheartedly.
So, for me, it's like women have to be the ones that start, because men can speak about their mental health, things of that nature. But as you can see, society doesn't really care about men's emotions and men's thoughts outside of how it affects other people. You know what I mean? So I just think that coming from a female is totally different. And also in today's culture, that's considered kind of pick me behavior as well, to kind of like understand the man, the male. So, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So we're gonna just get right into it. How prevalent is weaponized therapy, particularly of men or marginalized groups? And if you can you expound on weaponized therapy?
All right. So this is all my perspective. I try to do a little bit of research into it. But basically, from my perspective, I can't say, what I'll say is on social media, it's very prevalent. Women have started going to therapy more, and so have men. But, in the black community, that was considered, it was frowned upon. You
Yeah.
don't tell people your business, things of that nature. And I think with us going to therapy, we have to be careful that we don't get caught up in therapy talk, and that we don't actually take what we're learning and weaponize it when really we're just trying to defend ourselves, but it comes across as weaponized. So like we hear the terms narcissistic being thrown around quite a bit, which consider
Yeah.
it a therapy term. Um, boundary setting boundaries and things of that nature. These things are actually starting to be weaponized against people. And what I mean by that is when you set boundaries, it's not for the other person. It's more so for yourself. Hey, this is my boundary. I'm not going to allow that. You can't force your boundaries upon other people. You can just let them know that, hey, mm-mm, I don't want to deal with that. And then move from there. If they keep overstepping your boundaries, then it's up to you to remove yourself from that environment. It's not up to the other person to fix themselves. You get what I'm saying? And that's
Hmm.
what I think, like how weaponizing therapy is. Like we're out here and people are just throwing around medical terminology, don't really have a firm understanding of what it is. And it's also that also waters down mental conditions and things of themselves, because if everybody is a narcissist, what is a narcissist? And that also allows real narcissists to go undetected, which is terrible for their victims. And if you've ever dealt with someone that actually has MPD, you'll understand that it's not something to throw around lightly. It's not a
Hmm.
test, you know what I mean? Because if you've ever been, I don't want to say victim, because that's another thing. I think a lot pop psychology is playing to the victim narrative. So many people are now self-proclaimed victim of every single thing, and
Hmm.
body is manipulative, and you know what I mean, and it's just detrimental because these are these are
Yeah.
things that actually affect people, and to just go around tossing these terms around lightly is detrimental not only to yourself but to other people as well. So, on what I'll say is, in real life, face to face, you don't really hear these terms being thrown around. It's more so online, and people
Hmm.
online, like everyone has these facades and these masks that they wear online, and it's kind of crazy.
No, and it is, and I think that that's a great point because even just an example when it comes to narcissistic behavior, I know according to like the DSM-4 in psychiatry or DSM-5, you have to have a certain amount of characteristics to
Right?
actually fit
You have
being narcissistic.
more.
So I do agree. Social media throws it around, and it's like you don't fully understand. Like you have to have a certain criteria to actually be that. Now, you could have the behavior of it or the characteristic of it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that person is narcissistic unless they have those characteristics.
And it's also a healthy version of narcissism because narcissism deals with the ego. So
Hmm.
it's good to have an ego. Your ego can't protect you. It's when you live in that ego and you're living in this self-preservation mode where you're blocking and shutting down everything else and everybody and lacking empathy and things of that nature. That's when it typically leads into the NPD, narcissistic personality disorder itself. Narcissism
Hmm.
having narcissistic traits, we all may have one or two. We all
Agreed.
have one who is highly stuck on themselves, but you know what I mean? They're able to empathize and things of that nature, which would disqualify them from being an actual narcissist themselves. So it's just understanding. And it's not just that, just like a lot of the times when you can't manipulate someone or they can't have their way, then there's something wrong with you. It's not something wrong with them and their standards or boundaries that they're trying to impress upon you.
Right. Right.
And a lot of the
No, that's
time,
a good point.
like the people that are calling other people narcissists, they typically tend to be projecting, and they're really the ones that fit the characteristics. That's
Yeah, that's a whole nother topic. Okay, let's see. So, would you think safeguards or red flags to watch for in therapeutic relationships?
okay. Now this that are you saying like side of therapy? situations, or like what do you mean exactly by therapeutic relationship?
Um, so like relationships that when it comes to so this therapy in general. So when it comes to relationships and you're trying to grow, like are there safeguards or red flags that you to watch for to try to make sure a relationship continues to be therapeutic? So like different things may come up that could have, it led to things before, but you're trying to, how can I say this? You're trying to
So,
mold it. Go ahead.
okay, I think I understand what you're saying. So, like, something that I look for personally is whether or not that person can see things outside of their own perspective. Um, because if you can't, that typically leads to you lacking empathy. It typically leads to like black and white thinking where it has to be exactly the way you need it to be, regardless of there's other characters on the board. You get what I'm saying? Um, I someone who's always agreeing with everything you say, because we're two different people, so we shouldn't agree on everything all the time. We have
Mhm.
to have autonomy. We have to have not saying we have to argue, but we won't always be in sync. So even if like you're going and you're seeing a therapist or you're looking for a therapist and they agree with everything you say, there's never any pushback to get you to grow, to self-reflect, things of that nature. That's something to look out for. Um, Other red flags. Um, Pay attention to your nervous system. You know, in school, we learn about the nervous system and its functions and things of that nature, but we're not really taught that our nervous system is telling us things. You know, like we can look at butterflies. Butterflies can mean nervousness or you're excited to see someone, you know what I mean? But also, the butterflies could also be warning you that something isn't right. You know what I
Right.
mean? But if you don't have an understanding of your nervous system, of your bodies, you can misread the signs it's giving you. You know what I mean? So paying attention to that, like when you walk into a room, how does your body react? You know what I mean? Do you automatically feel like you go into fight mode or flight mode, or you get what I'm saying? So just paying attention to your body, because a lot of the times we have red flags, we just typically tend to ignore.
Ignore them. Agreed.
You know, we'll be like, God, can you send me a sign? And we'll get knocked over the head with a sign, and we're like, oh no, not that sign. You know that?
Because it didn't come in the way we wanted it to
Yeah,
come
exactly.
in.
Oh,
In terms of the body language, so you know how sometimes women have a woman intuition. So when it comes to that, I guess the only thing I would say with that is it can go both ways because you can feel something, you could think you may be right, but then you may be wrong too. So it's like, I guess taking a chance, because I do understand what, normally your gut would tell you something, okay, this isn't right, but your gut can tell you something and you could be completely off.
well, that's part of knowing your body. Um,
Mhm.
a lot of us really are as in tune with our bodies as we think, because being in tune with your body is also knowing the difference between those feelings. Hey, that butterfly, that's nervousness. Something in the environment isn't right. Let me be on the lookout, because we don't realize our brain and our nervous system is doing all this in the background. We're not even aware that it's happening. It's
Mhm.
just things that occur within our bodies that is alerting us as to what's going on. So it's all about knowing yourself. If you walk into a room and you feel your stomach start flip floppish, that's up to you to know and differentiate which one is that. You get what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
Mhm.
And it's not something that can really be taught. It's just something that you gain over time. You know what I mean? I'm 44 and I'm just starting to realize and understand it myself. You get what I'm saying? So it's not
Mhm.
knock on anybody, or I'm sitting up here like, yeah, I know everything. I don't. I'm just learning, and as I'm learning myself, I just tell other people. Like, um, I have when it comes to a woman's intuition, mm, I kind of have a different ideology on that because it seems like women's intuition work in the negative. It tells you he's cheating, but when you first met him, your intuition told you he was okay. Like, you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
I don't
but
really.
I agree with that. But even with that, it's like like you said, intuition would say he's cheating, but the intuition didn't say, hey, he's going through something. Something is leading up to him
Right,
doing that. But you don't get that, but you only get the bad. You know what I'm saying?
it,
So
it
it's
works.
just kind of funny. It works when you want it to work and how you want
Yeah,
it to work.
yeah. It want to pay attention to it because, truth be told, when we first met the dude, our system was warning us he ain't right. And we just like, oh, la, 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 la. He looks the way I want him to look. He checks off the attractive box. And you know what I mean? So we'll just see where it goes. And then when it doesn't go the way we wanted it to go, now all of a sudden he was manipulative and we're this victim. But anyway, that's something.
No, I just think it is interesting. It is.
Yeah. I don't, when it, and we all have an intuition, all of us.
Mhm.
Whether male, female, it doesn't matter. We all have an intuition. So to make it like a woman's intuition is more strongly than a man's, I mean, we all have it innately. It's just whether or not we choose to actually listen to it and follow through up on with it. But with women, it's always typically their intuition step in when there's something wrong.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Fair point. Fair point. Let's see. What societal factors contribute, do you think, to conditional empathy for men?
Well, for me, it's a lot of things that play into it. It's a lot of myths, is what I'll say, about males, even from a young age. Like, I realize Black males from birth have a target on their backs, whether they realize it or not. And I think a lot of the times we do a disservice that we try to raise our children in a world where color doesn't exist and everything should be perfect. But that's not the world we live in. Like, you know what I mean? You got to start preparing your son, especially your Black male child, at a young age. This world is not easy and it is not fair. And it especially is not fair to you. So myths like, they say that boys are hypersexual, like girls are not. They're more innocent and things of that nature. A lie. It's a lie. Girls are way more hypersexual than boys at a young age and later on in life. Like, it's this myth that men are just these sexual deviants. And that teaches us to lack empathy because that also plays into things like sexual assault that occur against men and physical violence and things of that nature. It all ties into it because, oh, if a girl says a male sexually assaulted, well, those sexual deviants, he did, he's automatically guilty. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And also, you have to think about how did that wear down on you, because you have to be hyper aware of yourself and your environment, especially when you're around a woman. In the back of her mind, she's chose the bear. Like, you're innately wrong. Something is wrong with you. And that's kind of like how society puts this pressure on men. So yeah, that contributes to lack of empathy because you guys are not allowed to express or explore your emotions at all. It's cut off. You come into this world and you have these agreements that you are the protector, the provider, regardless what. That is your
Mhm.
role. um Bend over backwards, do what you have to do. Happy wife, happy life. Shut your mouth. Work from birth to the tomb to provide. That's a heavy load for a man to take on. You know what I mean? And then he wasn't taught emotion, so he don't know how to express himself. And then we wonder why men are like ticking time bombs, or even like why suicide is so high amongst men. Like, no one that there's something wrong with that. Like, you know what I mean? And society is just like, oh, it's because men are evil. And but we're not taking a look into it as to why, what factors are playing into this. So, so yeah, uh, it's that it was something else I wanted to. They say that men lack emotional intelligence, but how are they ever supposed to gain it if they're not allowed to understand it? We have so many different emotions that we go through, and the crazy thing is women are allowed to just live in their emotions, la 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 la, in the lulu land, like, whereas men are, they're just chopped off from it. And then as they grow older, they're supposed to hit this magical switch that gives them emotional intelligence, and that's just not the way the real world works. Also, I have this theory. So, caregivers, parents, they teach us a lot of different things, Um, but three things that are very important that caregivers teach us is how to bond with other people based upon how we bond with our caregivers. They teach us how to manage our emotions, and they also teach us how to communicate. When you look in today's society, we are struggling with bonding, communication, and management of emotions. That
Hmm.
all goes back to how we connected and what to our caregivers, and what we saw, how we saw them managing their emotions, how we saw them communicating. You get what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So if you had a parent who could not manage their emotions, had lacked communications, and you never properly bonded with them, how do you think that's going to affect you in adulthood? And then you're a boy, so you're not allowed to express yourself. You know what I mean? So you're just a balled up tangle of emotions. What is emotions? Energy and motion. So yeah, something happens and then y'all pop off, and it's all your fault because you're a man and you should automatically know this, even if you weren't taught this. You were supposed to magically learn it somewhere in adulthood.
I think it a lot of the stuff, even with the stuff when it came to like what people say is sexual deviant, whether it's the male or the female, a lot of stuff comes from trauma. And even the stuff that you're talking about now, a lot of stuff comes from trauma, like, and then the switch that you had mentioned when it comes to the emotional intelligence. I think that one, hmm, I think one is just like the person has to want it, because some people, men, are sometimes stuck in their ways, and it is what it is, and that's just what they go by. More so, like, older men, I would say. And I would say for me, it took what, I was 32, 33, for me to kind of start to understand myself, to kind of be, emotionally intelligent. Because before, I just knew how to how to be a man of what I thought, as far as like you alluded to, when it comes to just working, providing, being there for my kids, and that was it. And I found myself realizing, like, okay, well, I'm not being emotional to the significant other, but I'm providing. I'm doing the things that I thought that I was supposed to do, but it's not working. And
Right.
that's where I had to kind of realize it myself. But I know some guys may not even realize that. They's like, well, I'm doing this, on to the next. But for me, I had to realize, like, okay, something is off, because I wanted to be able to be there and be a good partner for my significant other. So that's when, like, it clicked, along with realizing I had trauma from when I was younger. So it's like, I think a lot of that stuff plays a big part in just
Mhm.
everything in society, just the trauma. It's specifically, like you said, when it comes to black men, that maybe some other races don't necessarily have to deal with, seeing different things, or seeing violence, or just different things that you wouldn't normally see in another race.
Right. Well, I think we all go through similar things. It's, you know, regardless of what household it is, whether it, because Abuse happens regardless.
Mm-hmm.
It happens in white households. It happened in Middle Eastern households. It happened in Black households. It happened in Latin households. You get what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
sexual assault and all types of all of that goes across the board. No one
Mm-hmm.
group or group of people um, are exempt from that. You get what I'm saying? But they are more than likely to go get help.
Mm-hmm.
They are more likely because we have things in the and I'm sure it goes in other communities, but I'm talking about Black community. We have detrimental sayings like things that go on in this house stays in this house.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's abuse going on, you just chop that small child down and told them don't speak on what's happening to them. So you know what I mean? We have a lot of things. We had sayings like children are to be seen, not to be heard. What? When you really sit back and look at it, children are actual little human beings. They have feelings and things of that nature too. And like children are not allowed, their emotions are kind of shut down. Your child stay in a child's place until I want you to operate outside of those boundaries of a child. You know what I mean? So um we have a lot of ways in which children carry the emotional toll of the parent subconsciously, and it's very detrimental to the children. Like I had, it was a study done over in Britain or somewhere like that, where they were saying that uh, the a mother's happiness significantly impacts the children's ability to thrive in their lives. And you from a surface level, you look at that and you're like, well, yeah, of course, the mother's happiness, but no, who then is responsible to keep the mother happy? That falls back on the children. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
now you have the child walking on what, eggshells?
Mm-hmm.
Because they, oh, mommy not in the mood, let me, you know what I mean? So now you're they their nervous system is not regulating properly. They're not learning autonomy. They're not learning their own emotions because they have to put that to the side. So do you know how detrimental that is, especially with boys raised in a single mother household? Because now what,
Mm-hmm.
you're the
Mm-hmm.
man of the house. No, I'm not. I'm a little boy.
Right.
That's a whole lot of weight to put on a little boy, and then you wonder why when he grow up he has what is deemed as controlling behaviors and things of that nature, of black and white thinking, because he's had to be this way all this time. He had to be, a lot of times women put their sons in the place of their of what should have been their man. That's not okay for a little boy.
Mm-hmm.
That's not okay for a little kid to take on the emotional weight of their parent. It's not okay. But in society, it's deemed okay. Even though from a psychological standpoint, they know that is very toxic to that child.
But in that moment, I think to your point, because I would agree with what you're saying. But in that moment, um, it's not necessarily looked at until you see, years down the road to what that young man had became being in that household and having all of those burdens and all of those responsibilities put on them because of maybe the father that wasn't there. So it's like now when they're going out in this world and then they're expecting something because at the end of the day, it's like this is what it's supposed to be and what I said go. And like you said, it starts to be a somewhat of a control, but they was the man of their house at a young age. So when they're going into another relationship, that's what they expect. And it will be hard to kind of, you know, change that if that's what they've known for the
Mhm.
most part their entire life.
Right. It turns into a black or white thinking. I'm right, you're wrong, my way, the highway. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
really, subconsciously, he's not doing it to, and we know there's controlling men out there, but that's not the man that we're speaking about. We're talking about that man that's operating in his trauma, you know.
Mhm.
um, and no one empathizes with that man. No one stops, put themselves, because empathizing is removing yourself, putting yourself in their shoes and seeing things from their perspective. No one is doing that. Are they? In fact, society laughs and says he has mommy issues. He has mommy. Like that's a joking matter, which is detrimental in and of itself. Oh, he just sassy. Because, women told men, oh, learn some emotional intelligence, go to therapy, do the work. Now men are going to therapy and they're doing the work. And now, oh, he's sassy.
Is keep moving the goalposts.
Yeah, exactly. And it's crazy because it's always a negative. No matter which way men move, it's a negative, you know. And a lot of the times what we consider to be controlling is just protection. But a lot of us as women were raised in households where no male there were no male with authorities. So they don't
Hmm.
authority. So they don't even know what a male figure with authority look like. And a lot of the times women have a ideology. It's a thought in their head based upon information that they've gathered, because we're notorious information gatherers. You know what I mean? From the fairy tales that we've watched, we've created this thought process of what a real man is in our mind and expect you to comply with it,
No,
which is
hey,
mhm,
no, I was gonna say, even with that, because you said expect, and I think it comes the expectations that that they will have, in their head when it comes to this is what I want, this is how it's supposed to be, this is that and the third, and it's like when they either drop the ball or they fall short of your expectation, now it becomes strained between the relationship because in your mind, this is what you thought I was. I was supposed to be this perfect person, but then now there's a mess up. Now it because strife when it's just like there's not even grace because it's just not what you imagined.
right, because they're in their black and white thinking as well.
Yeah,
Everybody has
interesting.
neat boxes of what they think things are supposed to be. And then they take people and subconsciously they're trying to chip away pieces of that person so that they can fit in this mold, this pre-made mold. And that's not how it is. And then when you can't manipulate things the way you want it to be and you're not receiving the outcome that you had in your mind, now it's something wrong with the other person. The other person is manipulating things of that nature. So yeah, it's crazy.
But I'll say this: I think the biggest thing when it comes to that is hopefully in that time, well, in that short period of time, the person is able to realize, you know what, let me take a step back and let me look at it from another perspective. Because I think that's what kind of changes things. Because if you're open enough, to listen to another perspective or just take a step back, because we all know, when we're in the heat of the moment, is very little that could probably get through in that heat of the moment. But after you take a step back and you kind of look at it, and if you're really genuinely reflecting on, man, I could have did this better, or man, I was wrong for that, then that's
Hmm.
where I would say the growth, and that's where the quote unquote in not just expressing yourself, but that's where that emotional intelligence will really come in. That when you're having trials and tribulations, because you're able to hone it in and kind of reflect on it in a positive way.
Absolutely. I think when people hear emotional intelligence, they think, oh, I can name my emotion. I'm feeling mad. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling happy. And that's the end of it. No, emotional intelligence is applying it in real time. When you're
Hmm.
going through it, do you have the emotional intelligence to say, hey, why am I upset? What is leading me to being upset? Not just automatically lashing out at the other person. Oh, let me put my phone on charger. Not automatically lashing out at the other person as if it's their fault, or you know what I mean? And that's part of it.
Or what did I do to even cause the situation, and
Right.
be honest with yourself, because a lot of times that will happen, and we may not be honest with ourselves because of rather it's pride or ego.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. So yeah, it's just I think a whole bunch of different little things. Like I notice as a woman, we have a lot of different little ideologies about men that just simply aren't true. Like we think every man has his way with women. You know, every man has five, six, 10, 1,000 different women, and it's not true. In all actuality, most men are incels. They are involuntarily celibate because they are not the top. Women go for the top of the top. Uh, It could be a group of bums. They're going to go for the highest ranking bum. You get what I'm saying? That's
Hmm.
just in our nature. Um, and those things, so anytime something happens with a man, it automatically means he's cheating. You get what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Like there's things like when you're in a relationship, a woman says it's my body, it's my choice. If I don't want to lay down with you, I don't have to. And that's absolutely true. However, that also kind of like forces upon the man, because if it was any time a man was like, oh well, not right now, I'm not in the mood, oh, it's automatically he's cheating or he's doing something wrong. But there's no empathy with him. Maybe he had a hard day at work, you know what I mean, whatever. But we don't put ourselves, he has to understand our emotions, you
Hmm.
know.
Hmm.
Us want emotionally intelligent men, but really what we're saying is we want a man intelligent enough to manage our emotions.
Hmm.
He's not allowed to have emotions. That's why if you try to talk to us about anything, how you're feeling, we're going to take it, flip it, and turn it around. And now we're the victim. And now you're sitting there trying to baby us, trying to fix our mood now when it was you coming to us with the situation. And I realized that about women. I realized that about myself. And I'm like, that's not a good feeling to never have a safe space where you can come and say, hey, babes, you know, you did this, that, and the third. You know, I really didn't like it or didn't agree with it. Nah, we just automatically, oh, so, and we're not even listening.
Right.
It's crazy. And then we'll deny even doing it. So now, gaslight.
Yeah. Or well, I don't remember that.
It all comes because we're not really empathetic to you guys.
Mm.
Men loved conditionally. As sad as it,
You
as
said
sad,
conditionally or unconditionally?
y'all loved conditionally. It's your love based upon what you can do. The only people that love you unconditionally,
Mm. That's-
your daddy and your kids, and even your kids love you conditionally too. Especially
So
depending on the parent, the other parent. You know what I mean? What they're pouring into to that child regarding you. You know what I mean? It's just
so that oh, so okay, so I'm glad that you got into that. So I will say I think that's a great point. I know people will probably disagree when you saying that men are loved conditionally. I tend to agree, and I do think a lot of the stuff that had to do with society based off of what you can do. Because the moment you can do it, they may rock with you just for a little bit, but when they realize, okay, this ain't working, and it's not
mm-hmm,
up to their time, like I said, that whatever they have in their mind, they're out of
mm-hmm,
there. But I would say when it comes to kids, because I've experienced, as far as someone saying something, about me to my kids, but I kept being steadfast and I kept, doing what I needed to do. And what I ended up finding out, at least in this situation, was that they was resilient. So it was like I didn't even miss a beat, even though, it was something to where someone, you know, she had told the kids to say, "Oh, daddy don't love me no more." Just different things like that. But when they came back around, they ain't remember that. They can't wait to come see me. They just so it's like I do think if you continue to pour in and you continue to instill specifically, I'm gonna just say when it comes to fathers, because I know people will be ready to give up when it comes to the conditions of whatever the situation when it comes to your kids. But as long as you continue, regardless if they have their wall up, it's going to eventually drop because they're going to realize, like, even though I'm giving him a hard time, even though my mom is saying this, he's still, you know, coming. He's still being there for me. And I think that's where you can kind of see the unconditional, despite of what anybody else say.
No, that's true. Also, it has, if you were ever able to lay a foundation of love. You get what I'm
Agreed.
saying?
Right, right,
Now,
right. That's true.
we're disconnected from the child from the beginning, and then you
Hmm.
had this pouring this poison into the child's ear. 9 times out of 10, they're not going to be able to survive, because a lot of the times when you listen to people, they have this hostility towards their father. And it's like, well, have you ever had a conversation? Have you listened to your father's side of the story? Have you listened to his perspective, his point of view? And it's like, no, he just wasn't there. And, and they go from there. And it's like, let's be honest. You were raised with your mother. You know exactly how your mother is.
Right,
Do, do you think, connect the pieces
right.
while you're out there? Listen to how she talked to you. Listen to how she treats you. Now imagine how she was talking and treating that man.
That's true. But they don't never necessarily look at it like that.
No,
They
because
don't
we
look
have
at it like that.
ideology about mothers in all communities, that mothers are above criticism. They can't do anything wrong, and they're the one that gave birth to you, and they're the parent that stayed. You get what I'm saying? And you can't speak on the trauma that your mother has caused you, because let's be honest, back to what I was saying about those three things: bonding, management of emotion, and communication, which is taught by caregivers. Most caregivers are women,
Hmm.
are mothers. And we're struggling with this in the Western society. I don't know about anybody else, but here in the United States, those three things we're struggling with. Why do you think relationship podcasts and things of that nature is so big? Because people are struggling with bonding because they never learned proper bonding from their caregiver. They never learned how to manage their emotions and things of that nature. You get what I'm saying? So you have a
Hmm.
bunch of unhealed children walking around in adult bodies. And then it's we have this thought process that whatever happened in childhood, get over it. You can't blame your parent. It's like, no, I'm not blaming them, but I am holding them responsible for what they did do. Now, whether or not they validated, I don't need them to validate. I need to be able to face my shadows, face it, heal that inner wounded child so that I can move forward in my adulthood. But first, you have to recognize that there is trauma, what the trauma is, where the trauma came from, address that trauma, let your feelings flow up over that trauma, and then release it. But most people just pack the trauma down, just keep
Hmm.
packing it down and ignoring it. And what happens is you get to the point you're filled to capacity where you can no longer pack it down and ignore it. Then you explode.
Hmm.
And now you in jail, or you done went upside somebody's head, or you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Because we're not taught to do these things. We're not taught to understand this. And it's so sad.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. So what do you think when it comes to societal pressures to man up or suppress emotions? Pretty much what you was just saying.
Um, I think men have to just get to the point where they're like, F this. I don't care what society says. You know what I mean? They have to recognize, they have to look at themselves. First of all, you have to do self-reflection. A lot of people aren't able to self-reflect. They're just not. You know what I mean? You have to want it. You have to recognize it. A lot of people don't even know what the problem is. They just know they're angry. But we're not taught that anger is really a secondary emotion. That's covering up for what you really are feeling.
Hmm.
You know, so they just have to move past it. women use a lot of sign language. And I know a lot of women hate Kevin Samuels, not Kevin Gates, Kevin Samuels. But if you actually listen to a lot of things Kevin Samuels was saying, he was right on point. You get what I'm saying? Um, Women use a lot of sign language, shaming. Um, what's the other one? Shaming, uh, guilting, need to be right, and I'm missing an I. Insult, insulting. You get what I'm saying? So that's where it
Mhm.
comes from. Like when men start to have standards, preferences, women shame them for that. You know what I mean? Women make them feel guilty. Like, if a man says, I don't want to date a single mother, well, your mother was a single mother. What I don't date my mother. I don't want to date my mother. It's not the same thing. You get what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
we got to stop. We got to move past that. And we got to allow men to explore their emotions. We all know that men are not allowed to explore their emotions. So give them that room, give them that space. Hey babe, how you doing today? How was your day? What can I do to help you? Like women had this, I don't care what men think. And stuff like that. And like in today's society, there's such a hatred towards men. And so I often think, like, what do you think? How do you think young men feel being raised in a household where all the women, like, all men ain't, all men are dogs, all men are cheaters, men ain't this, and all of this negativity towards men? Then you wonder why so many of our young black boys are growing up not wanting to be men. Why would you want to be what you heard being dogged all your life?
Or go to another race.
Right. What it which is it crazy in and of itself, which you know um because black women are not the only women that are aggressive
Hmm.
or that talk crazy. you know
Right.
uh
Absolutely.
but they're considered spicy. You know what I mean? It's sexy and attractive when they do it. But
Mhm.
when they do it's ghetto and this, that, and the third. So it's really crazy how people think that jumping somewhere else is going to help instead of working through it.
I think it's more so a getaway from what they had to experience, coming up. I think that's what it could be. I know just talking amongst, certain people, because it's like, you constantly going through that and you like you don't want to go through that, whether it's the sister, whether it's the mom, and you like you kind of look at it like, do I want to deal with that? Do I
I,
want to deal with someone always yelling? Do I want to? So they look at that as to what it will be like if they was to get with another black woman. At least that's what it was explained to me,
no,
and I
I
thought it was an interesting point.
no, I get I get that perspective. Because a lot of the times they are trying to shy away from the women that, like you said, they grew up around, that was in their family. They were the loud, boisterous ones, and they're trying to get away from that. Just like when black women caught themselves divesting out and dating outside of their race. But here's the thing that I don't think a lot of people talk about in those dynamics is that a lot of times they're doing stuff for that other person that they weren't doing for their significant other. So, black women can say, oh, white men treat us better, whatever. But when they go into that relationship, they're more docile. They're not
Yes,
given
they're not that more.
to that white
Mm-hmm.
man that they were given to that brother.
And they're
Or,
not as aggressive, or there's not, it's toned down and compared to that. So it's a
oh,
different experience because
yeah,
you came there as a woman, really being soft instead of hard, because that's what you grew up and realizing that's what you had to be.
right, right.
No, I agree, and I could see that 100%. I will say to your point as far as
Hold on.
men getting.
Did I just knock out? Oh, there we
No,
go.
you're good.
Hold on.
As far as just men in general, I think understanding who you are and your value. Once you know your value, can't no woman tell you any. And I'm only saying that because I reached that point. Ain't no one woman
Mhm.
tell you, oh well, I don't like this. Okay, cool. I'll go to the next. Because like if I'm going or I'm so focused on what I'm doing, like it got to a point where people I will be dating, or pretty much talking, and some people, oh, well, you're too busy. Oh, well, you have this going on, and this is that. Okay. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
not gonna stop. And I like the song when he said, "One monkey don't stop no show." Not saying I need all three, but I think that just once you know who you are, it's just like none of that stuff matters. Like you can say everything you
exactly.
want. I know my path. I know where I'm going, so I'm not gonna allow you to deflect where I'm going because I
And
already
that's what
know
I
like
told
how
my
you.
son. I told my son, don't ever let anyone tell you what a real man is.
Hmm.
You determine that for yourself. I say because people will come and try to knock you off your square, knock you off your guard. Well,
Hmm.
a real man is this. A real I said people, it's very subjective what a real man is. Are you going to keep changing and tuning yourself in for every different person that you come across? No, you got your foundation and that's what you stand on. And if they don't like it, they don't have to deal with you. Just like you don't have to deal with them. But don't I said especially don't ever let somebody who never had a father figure or a real man in their own life tell you what a real man is. And with that being said, that leads me into another point. This might be off topic. Um, I feel like no, I don't feel. I think that men have more room to speak about what a real woman is versus a woman speaking about what a real
Hmm.
man is,
That's a
because men are raised around women all their lives. Whether it's their mothers, their sisters, their auntie, they're surrounded by women, different types of women. They are able to study women from a young age. Whereas a lot of us women are not raised in a household with males outside of our siblings or our cousins, but with a man in authority, we really don't know what that looked like. So we really can't speak on what a real man is because we didn't have any examples. And sometimes we do have males in our lives, but they're not the healthiest examples of what a man should be. So again, you still didn't have an example of what one was. But according to women, we shut men down. We give birth to y'all. We know everything. Shut up.
No, that's a
No,
great point. That's a really great point. That's a
no.
great point.
I'm teaching my like. I don't think a lot of women mothers actually teach their son they teach their sons how to love a woman, how to respect a woman, how to bend over and be a doormat for women. But I don't think a lot of us actually sit down and teach our sons about the shady manipulative side of women. I don't think we tell our daughters men are crazy and they just want one thing from you, and you know what I mean, we give them our biased perspectives of what men are, and that's based upon our trauma and our own life experiences. You get what I'm saying? And some of us
Hmm.
haven't had any good life experiences, so we're pouring this negativity into our children about men before they even have an understanding of what a man is. But um to say that, I lost my point. What was I saying? They shouldn't men men know more about women than women really know about men, because men actually study us. We don't care about what a man thinks. That's why if a man says, oh, I don't like a woman with makeup, I don't care. Meanwhile, this is the man that has to look at you every single day, and you don't care
Hmm.
what he think about how you look. Just like if he went off and cut his mustache off, now you got to look at this man looking crazy. Like, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like,
Hmm.
you gotta have flex. You in relationships, it has to be flexibility. You get what I'm saying? You just
Hmm.
can't be rigid. You
No, I
just can't.
agree. I agree. And we'll get to one of the last points, and I think that was big what you just talked about because I do think that is a great point as far as men would know. Well, because a young growing up as a young man would know more of what a real woman is compared to, you know, woman knowing what a real man is because they never would show one, if that
Right.
makes sense. So no, that's a great point. I ain't never thought of it like that.
Yeah,
So
and go ahead.
now I was gonna say, how does the legal system address or fail address biases against fathers?
Oh, the legal system fails men all day, every day. Listen, to be perfectly honest, out of the gate, I feel like a paternity test should be mandatory. Out the gate. I don't care if you're married or not. It should be mandated. No one should have a say that baby should be swiped. Because there are so many, what they say, upwards to 30 to 40% of people tested. That's just people tested. Come back that that man is not that child's father. The legal system knows that isn't the father, and he's still responsible to pay, financially responsible for a child that's not his. Also, which is crazy, I don't know if it's per state, but basically a woman can say anybody is the father. You know, if I got your
Oh wow.
name, if I got your name, I can say you're the daddy. I can give them a fake mailing address to send the court papers to. And if he doesn't show up because he never got his mail because it was a fake address, he becomes the dad by default.
Hmm.
Um, Women are given custody of the child just out the gate. I don't. I think no. I don't think that's a good thing because, as we can see, um, uh, women abuse children at a high rate. Nobody likes to talk about it. We like to sit up there and talk about when men are doing things to children, but we typically ignore when women are doing stuff to children, and women are doing stuff to children at a much higher rate than men. I don't think that just because we birth a child means we are a mother. It's some
It's a fair
horrible
point.
women that have birthed children. They've walked off and left them in
Yeah, I will say I heard about the story of, I want to say, the lady in Detroit.
that just offed her 4 kids.
Yeah, and they were
Goodness.
well, they was in the house for a decent amount of years, and
Oh,
she was
that
really,
one. I think, yeah, she had 3 kids and she left them there all alone. Now that ties back into empathy.
yeah.
We like to say that women are by nature nurturers and empathetic. Mm-mm. Listen at the way in which women want to abort their babies. Where's the empathy for the baby? Look at the way, and they look at the ways they'll go about averting motherhood in buckets, at police stations, these safe spaces, walk away from them in the hospital, leave them in the homes by themselves. You get what I'm saying? All of that
Hmm.
ties into empathy. Where's the empathy for the babies?
Right.
It's all about, in that case, mother left the child at home because she wanted to go live her life and do what
And
made
that
her
happens a lot.
happy. Exactly. That's very selfish. That is a very selfish mindset. Um, the way we look at a woman getting pregnancy, it's my body, it's my choice. You know what I mean? But women are the gatekeepers of whether or not a man becomes a father, but men are not allowed to tell women whether or not they have to enter into motherhood. So women can shirk their duty as a mother because let's be honest, they be like, men need birth control too. But the whole thing is in the name. It's called birth control. It's for the one who gives birth. Men don't give birth. We have a natural birth control.
Yeah.
And we have one egg once a month that we have to protect. We can't do that. We blame it on the men who, what? You guys can release hundreds of thousands of millions of sperm in one sitting, and you're expected to protect all of them, but a woman only has one egg, and it's your fault for fertilizing her egg. She ain't had nothing to do with it. He got me pregnant. All of it falls onto you guys, even though it's our body, our choice. What? So
I,
no, if a woman can shirk her duties as being a mother, and trust me, I feel like you get a woman because my brother taught me this from an early age. He said if you have unprotected sex, you're trying to get pregnant. Period.
mhm.
That squashed any argument right there because it was like, oh, yeah, well, yeah, but
Yeah.
we have all these outs for women, but men, you got to man up and you got to take care of this child
Mhm.
regardless. And she's going to have control of this child. You're not going to have any authority over this child. If she don't want you to see this child, you don't have to see this child. Go to court, fight for your child.
No, that's true. One of the things I will say that was kind of interesting, and it was actually a woman that told me that she had said that a lot of times in the beginning, women get mad when it comes to not all, because like I said, there's good mothers and
Mhm.
there's actually good situations. But she was referring to, she said, a man will tell you in the beginning, and he'll tell you, I don't want no kids, or I don't want to have a baby, but you still have it, but then you have it, and then you want to say, oh, he ain't this. But he told you in the beginning what he was going to do. So when you really look at it in the context, that was he said what it was going to be in the very beginning. So you can't get mad now that he's not doing what you think he was supposed to do when he told you what he was going to do in the very beginning.
That all goes back to what I was saying about ignoring red flags, and then when things don't work out the way you wanted to, now you've become a victim, and now that person was manipulative and things of that nature. Because let's be honest, men will tell a woman, "I don't want a relationship up front. I don't want any
Hmm.
kids. If you get pregnant, having a unalive it, do whatever you're gonna do. I'm not gonna be around." In our mind, what we hear is, oh, I'm gonna put this good gold mine on him and he gonna fall in love with me and we gonna be a happy family. And then it doesn't work out that way. And now she's out here screaming at the top of the lungs, deadbeat, deadbeat, deadbeat. When that's not the case. Like, you know what I mean? He told you what it was up front and you still moved about it the way you wanted to because you were living in your head in your delusional world. Because a lot of times women, you could tell a woman A, B, and C, and she heard D, E, F. She heard what she wanted to hear.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then I'm going to gaslight you and make you rethink your reality. That did I really Did I tell her we was gonna get married? Like, you know what I mean? Now you over
Hmm.
here questioning yourself as a man, like, what did I do wrong? Cause she done made you feel like you done did something wrong.
Right. And I don't want to necessarily, because obviously it does take two. So
Yeah.
he do have a responsibility because he knew what he's doing, but at the same time, he said it, it wasn't gonna be this, but you still in this way. So I think it just comes to two people, yes, engaging into a thing. They're both responsible. But if the person says they don't want it or whatever the case is, then you know,
Well, like
it
I tell
it, it, it it goes both ways. And like I said, it's not every case, but it's just those few cases.
like I tell women, how the world should be and what the world actually is two different things. So
Hmm.
this is your body. This is your choice. You gave the man access to your body, eggs, and womb. You have decades and decades and millions of examples that show how likely you are to lead into being a single mother with no help from the father. This is a choice that you made when you agreed to to allow this man to shoot your womb up with his baby
Hmm.
batter. You get what I'm
Hmm.
saying? You have to
Hmm.
take responsibility and accountability because no matter what he should do, you're still left as a single mother
That's a
raising this
fact.
child by yourself. So no matter where you throw the blame and the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, and all of that, it's not helping you raise this child.
That's
And
a
this is
fact.
something that you know going into it. He wasn't your husband when you laid down and that's another thing. Like women also need to be 100% honest. You know, all these men leaving the home. He wasn't in the home in the first place. You were a booty call. Y'all were some hookup people. Y'all weren't in a relationship to begin with. So he was never in the home. He didn't leave. He can't leave someplace he never was. So you got to start living in reality of the situation. You get what I'm saying? It's like you see a house, it's on fire, you go run in there, and then you come out playing victim because you got burnt and smoke inhalation. Who told you to go in there? That was your choice. You saw all the warning signs and you still did it. You're not a victim. You knew what you were signing up for. So don't come playing victim now. That's my thing. You were raised by a single mother. Your mother was raised by a single mother. And then all you did was go jump, and you thought because you were prettier or whatever that the same thing couldn't happen to you. No. So at the end of the day, yes, it do take two, but it only take one person to say yes. That's you, because a man can't get you pregnant.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Also,
Unless
that
it's
was your
forced.
choice when you decided to carry the baby to full term. So all of that is out of the man's hands. That's all your decision. But all we do is blame men, and that's not okay. Because where was your choices in it? Just like, when it comes to like child support and things of that nature, I don't think we empathize with men because listen, men are paying twice for kids. They're paying for the child while they're in your custody and when he's with
When he
them.
got him. Exactly.
You get what I'm saying? And like, let's be real. The majority of these men ain't out here paying thousands and thousands of dollars and in child support. Let's be honest about that. Like, but at the end of the day, you receiving Section 8 or some type of public housing, you get food stamps, you got medical through the government, all of this. How are you financially providing for your own child? Because you're not. The government is actually providing for your child. You're not. So you're calling him a deadbeat because he can't provide for the child. But ma'am, neither can you. Because if they take away all that assistance, where you gonna live, how you gonna feed your kids, that's not you coming out of your pocket for your own child. That's the government is taking care of your child. So who are you to open your mouth and call somebody a deadbeat when you can't even take care of your own child? And that's an unpopular stance, but
I mean, it's the truth. We pay taxes, so technically. No, but that's a topic people don't want to talk about. But it's real. It is
yeah,
real.
it is. I believe as I got older, I was like, if I knew then what I know now, my kids would have never been able to watch fairy tales.
Yeah, Disney
fairy tales in general, because we are being trained from an early age that a man is going to come play Prince Charming and drag us off into Never Never Land, and that's not the reality of the situation. So we're set up from failure. Then we're sitting up here playing with baby dolls, feeding this fake child. We're in our heads. You think that goes somewhere because we enter adulthood? I remember I heard Shahrazad Ali say, most women, and she was just speaking of Black women, most Black women don't age past 14 to 16, I think. And I believe it emotionally. If you, women, this is about men, but listen, women want the authority of men, into the authority and ability to move like men. They want the accountability of children while still having the privileges of a woman. We don't like it when somebody calls us children, but that's exactly what we act like. We expect a man to provide for us the way our fathers were supposed to. We expect a man to love us unconditionally the way our fathers were supposed to. We call this man daddy in bed and daddy when we want something from him, but then in the same breath, we'll turn around and tell him, you ain't my daddy. We want to be treated like princesses. Princesses is children. That's a child. We are grown women. We should want to be treated like queens, but no, we want princess treatment. We want to be treated like little kids. It's the think about it. Women live in their anyway. But the what was the question? Society pressures. What was it? The impact. Ability. I don't
No,
remember.
yeah, it was just the legal system and failed address
Oh,
biases against fathers. But we pretty much you hit that one on the head, and you hit man, you had some great points coming from like I said from a female, because it's just like even some of the things you said was very intriguing. I think what you said Miss Ali, that was profound too. But
have you read her books?
mm-mm.
She has. Listen, this book right here, The Black Man's Guide to Understanding the Black Woman. I bought this book years ago. It was hard for me to get a hold of them. It was this book helped it opened my mind to women. Like, you know, she said something that I never thought about. Women, we are the teachers.
Mm-hmm.
So we are the ones that's actually pouring all of these myths and all of these societal norms into our children. Like in the Black community, we talk about the patriarchy, but we've always been under the matriarchal system.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we have Big Mama House. We don't hear
Right,
about Big
right.
Papa. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But she was saying like it starts with the mother. So the daughter is watching mom. When she wants something from dad, she turns sexy and use her feminine wiles to try to manipulate him into doing what she want. Or she tell her daughter stuff like, oh, well, don't tell your father because you know he won't understand. This is putting doubt of the father in the child's head subconsciously. You get what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
now you hear your mom saying little sideways stuff about your dad. What do you think that's doing to you subconsciously? It's teaching you not to trust your dad and not to trust other men.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't even realize that this is happening. You get what I'm saying? So this was a really good book. It taught me a lot about women ourselves, and they had me doing a lot of self-reflection. And I'm gonna tell you something. I went through so many different emotions reading this book. Anger, frustration, sadness. Who was she? And how dare she say this about women? Oh my God, it's true. Oh my God, I've done a lot of the things that she was talking about in this book.
Mm.
So let me self-reflect and let me back up because I don't want to be like that.
Right.
I don't. And I'm going to say it, the mindset of the majority of women today, I do not agree with. I think it's hypocritical. I think it lacks empathy for other people, you know, things of that nature. The way we look at men, we treat men like they're not human. And that's not okay. Because you got to understand the effects that have on men. Because women
Mm-hmm.
like to say these men ain't but who raised them? We did. So in all actuality, we saying we don't even like our own handiwork. So in all, we complain about the mama's boys, but we raised the mama's boys.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, and this is a good one too. The Black Man's Guide to Understanding the Black Woman's Guide to Understanding the Black Woman, because this made me see things. She said something that was profound to me. She said, one of the only places men have control is in the bedroom. Why do you think they're always leading us there? I said, ooh, and it's the truth. That's the
Yeah.
only way, that's the only how we submit to a man.
That's interesting.
And I was just like, wow, I never thought about it that way. What's the fastest way to get a woman to fold? Better.
The bedroom. Yeah.
Tell her what she want to hear. And the crazy thing is, you have to be careful because these men out here are pandering to women. The
Mm-hmm.
Derrick Jacksons, the Ace Metaphors. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I got caught up with Derrick Jackson. I ain't gonna lie. And then after a while, I was just sitting here like he's just playing to our emotions, just telling us what we want to hear. Because remember at the beginning, one of the questions was safeguards or red flags to look for. It's when
Mm-hmm.
somebody is always agreeing with you, when there's no great growth. Oh, it's not you, it's everyone else. And that was kind of like Derrick Jackson's philosophy. Like women are perfect, they do nothing wrong. And I'm as a woman, I'm like, I know women toe up in the head.
Yeah, but this is the crazy part about it is when it is, or when a person is looking at a woman and maybe saying different things, not even critiques, but just saying things out of care instead of doing like what you just talked about, just agreeing the whole time. And more 9 times out of 10, guys who are agreeing the whole time trying to get with the woman is because they're trying to get you know what that bottom line is.
Right,
And I think that's where it gets missed. But then when you are, or you do show that you care and you do want the person to grow, or you say something, rather it's a critique or rather it's something that you could think that could better them, you're against them. And then they fall victim to that, and then they may lose someone who actually care, and then fall victim to someone who just want to say yes, man, because their only concern is trying to get, like you said, in the bed. So
right.
that's
Because
interesting.
what men have learned, I think men just put up with women. They just deal with women. I think they know that women, and it sounds crazy to say it, but men, they kind of put us in a box. Like, well, we know how she'll flip out with her emotions and stuff
Mhm.
like that. They know how to deal with women.
Right.
Um, like women will say all men lie, all they do is lie. But when they call you beautiful, are they lying then? When they tell you got a banging body and you got the best cat in the world, oh, they telling the truth now, huh? When they're telling you what you want to hear, oh, now
Yeah,
they
when they tell
being
you what's going
truthful.
on. Right.
You get what I'm saying? And
Mhm.
so like, and it's this big uproar with calling men simps or whatever, because people think that being a simp means, oh, he's taking care of his woman. No, that's not what it means. It means you're out here being a doormat for a woman that doesn't even like you. She not
Mhm.
even giving you any effort backs, and you're just over there sniffing behind her like, yep, you're right. You're right, being
Mhm.
the quote unquote nice guy. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? That's what the
Mhm.
simp is. Like, women call women, any woman that can agree with or understand or empathize with a man is considered a pick me. Oh, you're just doing it for the male gaze. When no, that's what you do things for the male gaze. That
Mhm.
that's not, you're projecting, and
Right.
that's another part of the weaponized therapy. Like people do so much projecting, which leads me to another this book. Have you read this book? The Four Agreements.
Yes. Yes. Yes, I have. No, yeah, that's a good book.
Hats off. Hats off. Like, um, you got to break those unwritten contracts and agreements that you had no understanding of, that you signed from birth. You know what I mean? You got to let
Mhm.
loose of a lot of things that you thought were the right things, and you know, you just, man, the mind is crazy. It really
Yeah,
is. I've been telling my kids, like, listen, you got to understand how powerful the mind is. The mind is so powerful, you can get lost in it. Your mind can really take over you. Like, you go into a state of fear, your body can shut you down. Your mind can shut your whole body down, where you can't move, you can't do anything. And if you don't control your mind, somebody else will control it for you.
for sure. And it happens. And it happens a lot. Especially
Yeah,
when the person is vulnerable.
yeah. And I'm sorry, it happens a lot to women because we're looking for somebody to come save us. We got to get out of that. Like with the whole patriarchal thing, like in the black community, black men never had any control over black women. Let's be completely honest. You know, everybody didn't live that color purple experience. You know what I mean? Because that's how black men, the crazy thing, that's another myth about how black men just create families all over the place and they'll have a family here and a family across town. Baby, women have different families in the same household. You got four dark aunties and uncles and one light skinned, and both grandma and grandpa dark skinned, and the milkman is light skinned.
Yeah.
So yeah, grandpa may have had a family across town, but you got grandpa taking care of another man's child unknowingly. But the nature of women, that's a whole different discussion that we could have, baby.
Okay. Well, that might be the next one. Any closing remarks?
No, how do you feel like society's views on men, of how does that affect you on a day-to-day basis?
Um, I'll say it's there. I think I've got to the point where it doesn't affect me. I think what I started to get at some point was more so the effects of um just being in the situation I was in with the significant other I was with at the time. That was
Mm,
more so draining than all the other society because I like for me, and it could be different, but for the most part, financially and all that stuff, I'm pretty much taken care of, if that makes sense. So I
okay.
wouldn't necessarily have a lot of those different scenarios, but I would say when it comes to, you know, being the best father you can be, um, working, also trying to uplift, the person that you're with or partner, it becomes, it takes a toll. And then the cycle of trying to give all your time towards your kids, then your partner, then you work. And if you want to do something on the side, rather it's a business, is that. So I think the biggest fact that I come with was balancing. Is this
Yeah,
the juggling act, and then making sure the person is understanding to know that you're balancing and understand, okay, well, this is your goal, this is where you're trying to go. I'm gonna either support you, or I'm gonna feel like, well, you spending time with the kids, and I understand you working, and I understand you got that going on, and there's no time for me, so I'm out. Which
yeah.
that has to be a conversation that has to be held. But I just think with that, it could be worked together as long as communicated. But at the same time, you can't change how someone feels. If they feel like that, in my opinion, I think they've been feeling like that for a minute. They just didn't tell you.
Right.
So it's just like I said, and that's where it kind of came to me just understanding the value of myself, and it's like, okay, if I'm going to do something, that's it. I'm not going to change, because I found myself changing in different scenarios for
Like I
somebody.
was saying, yeah, like what are you
Yeah,
gonna
no,
do?
yeah, like you were saying. But now it's just like, no, this is what it is. This is where I'm going. If you're not, somewhat aligned to where I'm going, then you keep pushing, and I could be whatever you want me to be, but I'm not gonna be with you. So it is what it is.
I love that. I love that men are starting to actually grow and learn emotional intelligence and set standards and boundaries, because a lot of the times in the past, like you were saying with the older generations, they just went along with the consensus of work, provide for your family, and that's just life. You know what I mean? And I told my
Mm,
son, hey, it's more to life than paying bills and taking care of somebody else. It's more to life than that. You're an actual person. You have feelings, you have emotions. You know what I mean? And just starting there. So I'm trying to break the mold of that with my son, to understand your emotions and things of that nature, just moving forward and just being solidified in who you are as a man and standing on those grounds. And don't let anybody try to shame or guilt you
mm-hmm.
or insult you. And because one of women, you don't do what they want, they can't manipulate you. Oh, you're sassy. Oh, you got mommy issues, or you got to be gay. And all of this other stuff. And it's just like, this is what we told men to do. We told men to go work on themselves. And then this is how we respond to them doing exactly what we told them to do. Like, I don't get it.
Yeah, and oh well, I'll say this and then we're going to go. But I'll say, the fact that you just said that, as far as all that stuff going on, you will start to see different things that you probably didn't see once you do tell the person, though, because like you said, the insults and all the other things will come out, and then when you're not doing the things either that you used to or the things that they was accustomed to doing, now they're doing or pulling out all the stops to try to get you to react.
Yep.
And then once it's not there, now the bitterness come in because it's like they lost you.
Yep.
And it's
And the
just like,
crazy thing about that, they say that men are typically more narcissistic than women. But if you look at it, women are very narcissistic in nature. No. Think about it. We have this need for excessive admiration.
mhm.
You know what I mean? We lack empathy a lot of the times. We don't care about you or the situation you got going on. We just fit a lot of characteristics, over five of them. But we turn around and tell men that they are the narcissistic ones, which is so crazy to me. But yeah, just pay attention. Women have this grandiose sense of self. We think that we should be able to work and save our money for ourselves. You have to break your back at work, pay all the bills, do everything, provide everything, and be happy with it. On top
Mhm.
of bending and understanding our emotions when we get to ignore yours. You get what I'm saying? We have this
Mhm.
black and white thinking about what a man is and what he's supposed to do and how he's supposed to do it. Think about it, the accountability that we lack in relationship. Everything is the man's fault. It's your fault why the relationship didn't work out because you didn't do what I wanted you to do. Like, you know what I mean? But
Mm.
society tells you no, it's the men that are narcissistic. It's crazy.
No, it is. Well, we are gonna definitely have to have a part two for
Oh,
sure.
we are. It was I,
For
I was
sure.
looking forward to this conversation too. So
Yes, ma'am. Any closing remarks?
um that's it. I just hey, I'm looking forward to the next time we can meet up and have a discussion on a variety of different topics. Men, just mental health right now and the way it's affecting men. Because, like I said, I have brothers, nephews, my father, my own son, you know what I mean? And I don't want them to grow up because I don't want my son to grow up in a world where he feel like he has to tuck his tail and hold his head down and be scared to allow himself to thrive in his own masculinity for fear of being shamed because you have this toxic masculinity. You know what people never talk about with toxic masculinity? That means they're operating in their feminist, they're operating in their feminine energy. That's what toxic masculinity is. It's the absence of masculinity altogether, which is only left with the feminine.
Hmm.
Men operating in feminine energy is toxic masculinity.
It's a bar.
But until next time, hit me up whenever
Yes.
you want to do a part two. I'm down.
No, for sure. And that's a wrap for Open Enough to Listen. Rather you agree, disagree, you want to drop a comment, just stay open to listen. It's a vibe. It changes perspective. And until next time, stay open and keep listening.
Bye.